Welcome back to the Knockout Nest, where we discuss all things boxing. Today, we're diving into the world of controversy, drama, and pure frustration. That's right, we're talking about boxing's most debated decisions, the matches that left fans screaming at their TVs, fighters shaking their heads in disbelief, and judges, well, probably running out of the building faster than they arrived. In the ring, the only things that should be split are the fighters' defenses. Yet sometimes it's the judges' scorecards that cause the real chaos. These are the moments when boxing fans across the world unite in utter outrage. Let's relive the fights that kept the debate going long after the final bell rang. But before we jump into the drama, what decision do you think is the most controversial? Let us know in the comments below. First up, the robbery of the century, Whitaker versus Chavez, September 10th, 1993. Now, Julio Cesar Chavez at the time was the undefeated juggernaut, 87 wins, 0 losses and 1 draw. Seriously, this guy made winning look as easy as tying your shoes. Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker? Well, he wasn't just good, he was an artist, a defensive wizard, the kind of fighter who could dodge punches like he had a sixth sense. The fight starts and it's clear from the get-go. Whitaker was putting on a defensive masterclass. He slipped, dodged, countered. By the final bell, most of the crowd, commentators, and even Chavez's fan club thought Sweet Pea had this in the bag. But then the scorecards came out. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a draw. A draw? 87 wins, 0 losses, and now 2 draws. If the math ain't mathin', you're not alone. The world of boxing screamed robbery. Whitaker dominated that night, but the judges somehow thought otherwise. To this day, fans still argue over this decision, and for good reason. The real punchline, the draw robbed Whitaker of a definitive career-defining win over an unbeaten legend. Next up, the fight that had the whole Philippines and most of the world scratching their heads, Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley 2012. Pacquiao most of the fight. Fans, commentators, and even Bradley himself thought Pacquiao had it in the bag. But guess what? Split decision. Oh, you could hear the entire boxing world go, wait, what? Bradley himself, when the decision was announced, looked like he had just been told he won the lottery, without ever buying a ticket. The media frenzy afterwards? Oh, it was insane. Everyone from seasoned analysts to casual fans was convinced Pacquiao had been robbed. Even the WBO did a review of the fight and concluded, surprise, surprise, that Pacquiao should have won. But guess what? The result still stood. The heavyweights had their own scandalous moment in 1999. Lennox Lewis, the towering Brit with the punishing jab, met Evander the real deal Holyfield, one of the toughest warriors in boxing history. MSG was packed to the rafters, and everyone expected fireworks. And fireworks we got. Well, sort of. It was clear from the early rounds, Lewis was the one in control. Jabs, crosses, uppercuts, you name it, he landed it. Holyfield, the lion-hearted fighter that he was, kept pressing, but it just wasn't his night. So when the scorecards were read, everyone assumed it was a done deal. Lennox Lewis dominated. There's no way the judges could screw this one up, right? Wrong. One judge had it a draw, another gave it to Holyfield, and the final result, a split draw. At this point, you've got to wonder if some of these judges were watching the wrong fight. The British press called it the robbery in New York. Lewis eventually got his redemption in the rematch, but this fight left a bad taste for everyone who witnessed it. And now a more recent classic, Gennady Triple G Golovkin versus Canelo Alvarez. The build-up was massive. The stakes couldn't be higher, and fans had been waiting years for this middleweight showdown. Golovkin, the Kazakh wrecking machine, had terrorized the division for years, while Canelo was the golden boy, Mexico's pride. From the opening bell, Triple G stalked Canelo like a man on a mission. Canelo, to his credit, showed incredible head movement and counterpunching, but Golovkin was the aggressor, landing the harder shots. By the time the final bell rang, it seemed Golovkin had done enough, but oh no. Adelaide Bird's infamous scorecard struck again. She had Canelo winning 118 to 110. The internet nearly exploded. I mean, it was so bad that people started questioning if Bird had actually seen the fight. The fight was declared a draw, and just like that, the boxing world was divided. Triple G fans screamed robbery. Canelo fans screamed back, and the stage was set for one of the most heated rivalries in recent boxing history. And now let's talk about the most recent controversy that rocked the boxing world in October 2023. the highly anticipated crossover fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. The matchup had all the makings of a spectacle. On one side you had Tyson Fury, the reigning WBC heavyweight champion, an undefeated boxer known for his technical prowess, quick reflexes, and ability to outthink his opponents. On the other side, Francis Ngannou, the former UFC heavyweight champion making his professional boxing debut. It was the ultimate collision of worlds, MMA versus boxing, and the tension was sky high. Most experts predicted that Fury's experience and skill would carry him to an easy victory. After all, Ngannou had never boxed professionally before, but what unfolded that night was nothing short of shocking. In the third round, Ngannou, a man known for his brutal knockout power in the MMA world, sent Tyson Fury crashing to the canvas with a thunderous left hook. The crowd was stunned. Fury, the giant who had faced down the likes of Deontay Wilder, had just been floored by a debutante, and it wasn't a lucky shot. Ngannou continued to hold his own, consistently landing heavy shots and outboxing Fury in several rounds. As the fight progressed, it became clear that Ngannou wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. The crowd could sense the upset brewing. By the time the final bell rang, many believed Ngannou had done the unthinkable. He had not only knocked Fury down, but he had also outworked him. Fans, commentators, and even fighters from home thought Ngannou had pulled off one of the greatest upsets in boxing history. But then came the scorecards. Despite Ngannou's knockdown and dominant performance, the judges awarded a split decision victory to Tyson Fury. Cue the uproar. Social media was lit, fans were fuming, and boxing analysts were left scratching their heads. How could a fighter making his boxing debut, who had knocked down and outboxed the reigning heavyweight champion, lose the fight? Francis Ngannou, with one fight under his belt, had done more than most experienced boxers had managed against Fury. And yet, the judges saw it differently. The result sparked heated debates, with many feeling that the decision was yet another blemish on boxing's long history of controversial judging. This fight added fuel to the ongoing debate about the transparency of boxing's scoring system. Many called for reforms, questioning whether the sport needed to introduce new measures, perhaps even integrating modern technology to aid judges in making fairer, more accurate decisions. One thing's for sure, Ngannou's boxing debut will be remembered for years to come, not just for the controversy, but for proving that even the unlikeliest underdogs can shake the world of boxing to its core. Next, we dive into the early days of Floyd Mayweather's career, specifically his fight against Jose Luis Castillo in 2002. Now, Mayweather even back then was known for his defensive brilliance and technical precision, but on this night, Castillo wasn't having any of it. From the opening bell, Castillo was relentless. He applied constant pressure, landing body shots, and by the middle rounds, many believed Castillo had taken control of the fight. Mayweather, the undefeated star, was looking vulnerable for one of the first times in his career. Castillo was the aggressor, landing more punches and even out-jabbing the slick boxer. By the end of the fight, it seemed like Mayweather's perfect record was in serious danger. But then, the judges' scorecard told a different story. Mayweather was declared the winner by unanimous decision. Cue the confusion. Most ringside observers, commentators, and fans believed Castillo had done enough to take the victory. And this decision sparked one of the earliest controversies in Mayweather's illustrious career. Mayweather kept his oath, but the debate over this fight continues to this day, with many still believing Castillo should have handed him his first loss. Another major controversy that still gets boxing fans riled up, Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad in 1999. Now, this fight was billed as the fight of the millennium, a showdown between two undefeated superstars in their prime. De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, came into the fight with a reputation for technical brilliance, while Trinidad was known for his devastating power. Now, in the first 8 rounds, it was a boxing clinic by De La Hoya. He outboxed Trinidad, landing clean shots and moving around the ring with ease. It looked like this was an easy victory for Oscar, until the last 4 rounds, where De La Hoya decided to coast, thinking he had already done enough to secure the win. Big mistake. When the scorecards were read, Trinidad was declared the winner by majority decision. The crowd was stunned. De La Hoya had dominated most of the fight, yet somehow the judges gave it to Trinidad. The aftermath? It was an absolute firestorm. Fans and analysts alike felt like De La Hoya had been robbed of a clear victory, and this fight has remained one of the most heated debates in boxing history. Now let's take a trip back to the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, where one of the biggest scandals in amateur boxing history took place. Roy Jones Jr., who would later become one of the greatest boxers of all time, was in the gold medal match against Seoul Korea's Park Si-Hun. From start to finish, it was clear who the better fighter was. Jones outlanded Park 86 punches to 32. 86-32. It wasn't just a win, it was a clinic. But somehow, in what remains one of the most baffling decisions in Olympic history, the judges awarded the fight to Si-Hun. The boxing world erupted in disbelief. Even Park himself reportedly apologized to Jones afterwards, acknowledging that he didn't deserve the win. This controversy led to widespread criticism of Olympic boxing scoring system and calls for reform. Although Jones didn't get his gold medal, he went on to have a legendary career. But this decision remains a dark stain on the sport. Now let's fast forward to 2011, where one of the most egregious decisions in recent memory took place: Paul Williams versus Erislandy Lara. Going into the fight, Williams was the more established name, but Lara the Cuban slickster was known for his technical skills and counterpunching. Once the fight started, it quickly became clear that Lara was outboxing Williams, landing clearer and harder punches all night long. By the end of the fight, Lara had clearly done enough to win. The stats backed it up, with Lara landing almost twice as many punches as Williams. But when the scorecards were read, the judges somehow gave the fight to Paul Williams by majority decision. Even the commentators couldn't believe what they were hearing. The decision was so bad that the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board ended up suspending the three judges for their horrendous scorecards. Yeah, it was that bad. And finally, we arrive at one of the most shocking upsets in recent memory: Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao in 2017. The fight took place in Horn's hometown of Brisbane, Australia, with over 50,000 fans in attendance. Pacquiao, the living legend, was expected to easily dispatch the relatively unknown Horn. But the fight was anything but easy. From the opening bell, Horn came out aggressive, roughing up Pacquiao and making it a dirty physical fight. Pacquiao has always had his moments, landing the cleaner and more effective punches, particularly in the later rounds when he nearly stopped Horn. But when the scorecards were read, it was Horn who was declared the winner by unanimous decision. The crowd erupted in celebration, but fans and analysts watching around the world, not so much. Social media blew up with cries of robbery, with many feeling that Pacquiao had clearly won the fight. Even ESPN's commentary team, which had been covering the fight, was shocked by the decision. This was yet another controversial chapter in Pacquiao's storied career, and one that left a lot of fans scratching their heads. And there you have it, some of the most controversial boxing decisions in history. The ones that left fans pulling their hair out and fighters questioning the sport. From Olympic scandals to modern-day robberies, these decisions prove that in boxing, sometimes the real fight is between the judges and the truth. Which decision do you think was the worst robbery? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more knockout content. We'll see you again when the dust settles on the canvas.